Pine County thought it could erase dissent with paperwork. They filed a harassment restraining order not to protect anyone, but to silence someone. They invoked the courts. They invoked the badge. They invoked the power of the state to defend themselves from embarrassment. They used the law not as a shield, but as a sword. But they miscalculated. They didn't target a criminal. They targeted a citizen, a journalist, a witness. And in doing so, they exposed their own corruption. This is no longer about the order they filed. This is about the reckoning they triggered. This isn't a defense. It's a declaration. They picked the wrong target. Welcome to Judgment Day. On February 22nd, 2022, a document was filed in Pine County District Court. It was a petition for a harassment restraining order, but it wasn't filed by a private citizen. It was filed by Deputy Carl Hawkinson, number 554, identifying himself by badge and title. That matters, because under Minnesota law, harassment restraining orders are meant to protect civilians, not to silence critics of government misconduct. And Hawkinson didn't stop at filing the petition. He was represented by Reese Frederickson, the Pine County attorney. That's not private legal counsel. That's a public prosecutor stepping in to assist a deputy against a civilian who criticized him. That's not protection. That's retaliation. This wasn't about public safety. It was about damage control, a civil process turned into a political weapon under color of law. And now it's Exhibit A. They claimed fear. What they feared was exposure. When a citizen files a petition for a harassment restraining order, Minnesota law requires evidence, real evidence, of harassment. Not criticism, not public embarrassment. Harassment. The law defines harassment as a pattern of behavior, repeated acts directed at a specific person with no legitimate purpose. But the petition filed by Deputy Carl Hawkinson described no such pattern. It described public speech. It described political protest. It described a citizen recording public officials on public property. Not one word, not a single fact, described harassment under the law. The court should have seen that immediately. The court should have recognized that a law enforcement officer filing under his badge, represented by the county attorney, was not acting as a private citizen. He was acting as the state. The court had a duty to shut this down, to protect the First Amendment, and to prevent government retaliation. Instead, they looked the other way. They let the system be weaponized. And now, they are as responsible as those who pulled the trigger. After filing a false harassment petition, and after the court failed to stop it, the officials in Pine County had a choice. They could have admitted they were wrong. They could have upheld the Constitution they swore to protect. They chose something else. They chose to manipulate the process. They altered reports. They padded their narrative after the fact. They tried to transform public criticism into criminal accusations after the damage was already done. And the emails prove it. While pretending the harassment order was legitimate, they coordinated behind the scenes to delay hearings, to hold the temporary order open, and to protect the deputy, not the rights of the citizen they targeted. They used the legal system like a shield, not for victims, but for public officials embarrassed by the truth. This isn't speculation. It's written in their own communications. It's visible in the changes to the reports. They didn't just misuse the courts. They falsified the record to protect themselves. And every word they changed, every email they sent, is another brick in the wall of their guilt. In Pine County, Minnesota, the constitutional rights of a private citizen were trampled, not by accident, but by design. Deputy Carl Hawkinson abused the legal system to silence protected speech. He filed a harassment restraining order without legitimate evidence after illegally detaining a citizen engaged in First Amendment activity. Hawkinson controlled the internal narrative, suppressed exculpatory facts, and lied under oath to weaponize the courts against his critic. County Attorney Reese Frederickson abandoned his duty to the people of Pine County. Instead of investigating misconduct, he became Hawkinson's personal lawyer, blocking prosecution, suppressing evidence and creating a direct conflict of interest that violated the most basic principles of justice. Sheriff Jeff Nelson chose inaction. He had direct access to the manipulated case files, direct knowledge of the rights violations, and every opportunity to intervene, and he refused. In Pine County, silence wasn't ignorance. It was collaboration. These three men betrayed their badges, their oaths, and the Constitution itself.